Howdy and happy Thanksgiving. That's when I start working on this video anyway. So, here we are at part 3 of the Hatsan Model 95 stock to Striker 1000X conversion. And I finally found a spot where this right-angled plastic part fell out that apparently holds up the rear of the action about that far from the end of the cutout where the safety button is. So, because the safety button was sitting down the stock, now it looks like it's really close even with the rounded part of the stock where the grip is, where the button slides over top, kind of like this. And we'll also get to drilling the 4 stock holes, which is going to be really tricky because that's like a 30-degree angle, like this, with those 2 4 stock bolts. See if we finally got the bolt that goes in the back of the trigger to line up so we don't have to cut anything. We'll have to play around with all that stuff this time. I basically want to get all the holes drilled and everything, and get a hole drilled in the buttstock for the sling swivel mount. And I'm thinking of getting a sling swivel mount for the front that fits over the barrel, like right in front of the breech block, because Hatsan has those funny looking clips like you use on a dog leash or something. So see if I can work with that. But no, English sites and stuff sell them barrel clips, the barrel sling swivel mount. Get the right diameter of that and they're all glued up and everything will look fine. Won't interfere with the open sights because I don't really use those anyway. So let's get into it. And here we see that black plastic piece that stands up in the notch there to hold the rear of the action tube up to proper level, which in this case is too low, so we got to make some shims. And you can see here that the bottom of the safety switch in the back there is just under the surface of the top of the grip. It needs to come up 10-15 thousandths, something like that. And here's what it looked like before I got started on it. It's jacked up a little bit more, but not enough. And here's an old card that's gone past 30 days. I'm going to trace a shim out of with a Sharpie, the small end, of course. Here it is traced out. You can kind of see it, but here we have a close-up. Cut that out with a pair of barber shears. Nice sharp, smaller scissors. And then, of course, doing some trimming and fitting to get the fit close as we might. So that's the first shim. And here we see the shim in place, which goes underneath of that plastic height bracket, whatever the heck it is. I gotta look up the name for that. And you can see it's a little higher. It's real close to the surface of the top of the grip, though. It's close but no cigar. So back to the drawing board, we trace another shim, a second one. The old plastic credit cards and stuff are just the right thickness for making shims. And I got it trimmed as close as I could and stacked them both up in the same spot. And a little bit closer look there. Might have to trim it with a Dremel later, but when the trigger mechanism goes in, we'll see. And here's with the height adjuster bracket in place. And you can see it's a tad higher according to the way it sits against the wood. And here you can see that it finally clears the top of the grip and what it looks like overall. Okay, after putting the shims in, I could now fit the trigger guard in place because the action has moved back a hair over 1/8 of an inch. You can see the pencil line there in the front of the trigger guard, how far back it had to move. And there's a decent amount of clearance on the safety button, but not a lot, just barely. And you can see from this photo here that the barreled action is teeter-tottering from one end to the other, so I pushed it down the front to draw the lines that will represent the top of the forestock on both sides. The camera went blurry here. I don't know why it does that. And I found out why the forward trigger guard screw is sticking up a little bit. The very tip of the screw, so the shims, which I didn't cut back far enough, are teeter-tottering on it. So I had to cut these back about another 3/8 of an inch in the center there. All because of the tip of that screw. Now I got that one to clear the tip of the screw. I cut the second shim to match that one, installed it. Now they're sitting flat in the little notch there. And this is why the bottom of that height adjuster plastic block thing is hollow on the bottom, so it clears that screw. Gives it a little leeway, so you're not going to be teeter-tottering on it. And here it is in place with both shims again. And you can see it's up to level there, so now everything's going to be copacetti. And it still is just almost touching right here, so by the time I put the finish on, it'd be scratching. But at least it's evenly level now and properly bedded. And that's the important part. And as you can see, the lines I marked on there are still in perfect position, so that's all good. Here are one of the forward mounting bolts for the forestock bolts, the two of them. You can see the screw up there by my third finger that is for the tightening the barrel and the jam nut for it. And having these vertical lines in there, I can then measure with my flexible ruler from the bottom of that line to the center of the hole there for the forestock screws, which is not a lot of room. It's pretty close to the original distance, but it's 12 millimeters as I measured it. And then I drew horizontal and vertical lines to triangulate the measurement to show where the holes had to be drilled at a downward angle from the inside. Okay, so you'll start at where I'm pointing to right there. The holes start at that point on the inside of the forks and come out about here. On the outside, you can see it's pretty close to the original forestock holes for the 95. So I'll have to glue up some plugs and put them in there and do that first. And now you can see this thing's got the bottom of the safety button has a downward slant to it. You can see it better here. So I'm going to have to take a 6-inch mill file to level out the bottom of that switch. And now it clears real nice with the barrel in action properly bedded. Everything's bedded solidly and clears everything on the stock, so we're all good there finally. And here we have the factory picture of the Hatsan sling as they're typically sold. And in the package it actually comes in against the rifle, so it gives you some idea of relative size. And here is the package for the barrel clamp super swivel from Uncle Mike's. A little shot of where the barrel goes into the breech block in front there. And here you got to use that set screw that goes in the top hole to put the barrel clamp on there and leave it a couple turns loose. Just looks really good too so far. I think it fits really nice. And here's the Allen wrench that comes with the kit. Like I said, you got to back it off a couple turns. And here's the flat-bladed screwdriver that goes in that hollow set screw with the slot in it. But it's actually the slot's on the other side. I'm just showing here for clarity. So it's the spacer you screw in that helps maintain the gap from top to bottom on the barrel clamp, that barrel shaped part there. You see there's a slight gap there when you do it right. And then here you have the detachable swivel, push through and then just rotate the loop back up and tighten it down. And it's still nice and loose and it fits really great and everything. Even the sheen on the bluing fits that on the Hatsan's barrel. That just looks really nice. And here it is with that dog leash clip from the Hatsan sling on Uncle Mike's swivel there. You can't remove those Hatsan dog clips. But anyway, here's what it looks like so far. That shoulder strap part is big. And here it only comes with a white spacer. I had to dig a black one out of my spare parts so it would match the butt plate and the other plate I'm going to show you in a minute here. So everything looks right. And here's the plate that was a black that the previous owner had painted like a burgundy color. So I got to clean it up and then sand it with 400 to maybe 1,000 grit emery paper to clean that up. So I could spray it with the Rust-Oleum gloss white here. It's already got the primer in it. And here we have the butt pad spacer, kind of dirty with that ruddy brown burgundy colored stuff on it. And here's the other side where the screws go through, including the two center ones to hold the plate on the buttstock. I initially used Birchwood KC cleaner degreaser and a couple of Q-tips, thinking that'd be enough to clean it up. And it wasn't. It got maybe half of the material, thicker part of it. Not bad, but no cigar. So we used a green Scotch-Brite pad and got it pretty well cleaned up with that. Scrub that stuff off there. It looks pretty decent. Wipe it down real good so we can then use white Rust-Oleum here, but it's gloss white, but don't get the ones with the primer. That primer spits out like silly string the way it settles out and sprays. It wants to spray like foam and sand. Terrible. I had to sand that thing down and hit it again with 3 or 4 coats of paint so it would at least look halfway decent. Try to find that paint without the primer. Works better without the primer. And you can see here it's a little gritty. It looks exactly like the surface of the moon on the edge there with the pits and scarps and everything. Looks like craters and everything. It looks exactly like the surface of the moon. And here it is back in place. I didn't show putting the 2 black screws in the center holes here. I forgot to show that. I didn't put them in initially, and that's why you see a gap there between the butt pad and the spacer. So I had to screw the plate down and then put the pad back on. And those aren't the original pad screws. I don't know. They're too big, that's for sure. But at any rate, properly done. It all mates up real nice. Basically looks good. That white and black makes the Turkish walnut look good. Nice, clean, finished kind of look, I think. And here we measure 2.5 inches on the bottom edge of the buttstock from the end of the wood, not from the end of the pad. And then locate the center of that bottom edge and mark that. So now you know where to put the swivel stud, as you can see in this shot here. And I use a 5/36" drill bit that equals the pitch diameter of that swivel stud in the back. Drill to the depth of the length of the stud minus the thickness of the 2 spacers. And I used the Allen wrench here to screw it down in there just to make sure it fit and to cut the threads in the wood, you know. So that's all well and good. And I took it out, peeled the tape off, picked the little splinters out and everything. So that's all set. And then screwed it back in. Looks good with the matching spacers. And here's an overall shot of the finished buttstock area. It's going to look good when it's done. And here you basically see the first 1000X with a properly mounted sling. Little rear sling swivel detail. And an overall shot here of what it looks like so far. Is getting close to done. And here I use painter's tape to mark off where I'm going to drill through for the front mounting holes. I got a straight seal picker, basically a small awl, to mark the spot where I put the drill. In this case, it's a 3/16 inch drill bit, which equals the overall thread diameter of the two front bolts. You don't want to cut threads in, you just want them to go right straight through like you see in that hole for the 95 there. And here's one of them drilled at the right angle. Come in high from the inside, and the way the stock is there, it forces you to drill it at the right angle. I thought that could be true and I wasn't sure, but here I am drilling the other side anyway. Got that hole, but you can see where I cut into the stock a little bit. I had to raise up a little bit to get the angle right. But here you go. You see the properly drilled holes there. I got to plug the other 95 hole there before I can put in the striker hole bolts. Okay, well, that'll be it for this installment, since I found out rather quickly you can't use plug cutters on a drill. So I'll show you a couple of pictures here of what I got from Harbor Freight. They had an 8-inch drill press on sale, which is perfect for doing small stuff like I need it for. And the 4-inch drill press vise that bolts to the little table thing. And of course I've got the plug cutters. The plugs for the Hatsans look to be 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go with that one. Since I cut those few inches off of forks off the end of the forestock, I can use that to cut plugs out of. And use a cutoff wheel on the Dremel to cut it to the actual thickness I need, since the Model 95 forestock bolt holes are stepped. It's less than 1/8 of an inch on the first little stepper, that black metal like skinny bushing thing goes. Then a washer looks like they cut off a thin piece of tubing and glued it and stuck it in there basically. So it'll be after Christmas before my drill press and whatnot gets here, in theory. If it gets here sooner, well, so much the better, because then we can get her done. So, good Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. We'll see you again. We'll get this done.